An edition of the Alpenglow Winter Speaker Series. Thank you all for joining us. Thanks to all of you joining us in person here at OVL, and to all of you joining us online from the comfort of your living rooms. And now, without further ado, I'd like to introduce the man who makes this all possible. Please welcome our host, Brendan Madigan.
Yeah. Hey, everybody. How's it going? All right. Thanks for coming tonight. We've got throwouts for everyone. So we got Stephanie here. Give her some love. She'll throw you some free swag. Devin over there. Too many. It totally started. Yeah. Gotta love a Tundra. All right, who doesn't have a hat? Okay, good evening, everybody. Right out of the gate, can everyone hear me in the back okay, at the bar? All right. Right out of the gate, how about that storm cycle? 80 inches in 2 days? Come on, it's like someone shook that snow globe for us. It's Sierra Cement, it's terrible. So, I'd like to welcome you to the second show of the 16th Annual Alpenglow Winter Speaker Series presented by Tahoe Mountain Realty. My name is Brendan Madigan. I own Alpenglow Sports in Tahoe City, and I'm your host for the evening. And whether you are in person in the crowd tonight, thank you for braving the sketchy roads, or tuning in remotely. On behalf of our entire team, I'd like to take a second to just say thanks. Thanks for your support in some weird times, some scary times, and thanks for coming tonight. And while COVID is nowhere near done with us, seemingly, I can't tell you how amazing it is to do this in person again under one roof. And it's not going to be the Winter Speaker Series that we know and love with super rowdy partying and wall-to-wall attendees, but it's a step in the right direction, and we're really, really grateful and privileged to be able to do that. So for those of you who might not know the Winter Speaker Series, it has a twofold goal. The first is to inspire and motivate every mountain athlete to chase their own dreams, but also to educate about and raise funds for local nonprofits making a tangible difference here in the North Lake Tahoe and Truckee communities. And for context, we started this thing 16 years ago after Nettles started, like pretty much after he came out of the womb, in a tiny little bar in Tahoe City, and we'd be lucky to get 25 people, and we'd be stoked. Now with over 4,000 attendees annually and a live stream that stretches across the globe, this speaker series, with your support, has become one of the premier forums for adventure storytelling in North America. And we double down on these inspiring tales from athletes like Elena with some pretty audacious fundraising goals. 100% of your giveaway purchases for all that amazing gear from Elena's sponsors, as well as the bar proceeds, go to benefit one of 5 handpicked local nonprofit organizations. This amount from the giveaway and the bar is combined with the dollars we raise through our anonymous philanthropic group, the Donor Party, and the end goal, and we achieve it, which is still staggering to me, is that each show in this room raises over $70,000 for a local nonprofit organization. And something that we're super proud of this year, our 16th year, the Speaker Series will break the $1 million raised mark for a local nonprofit. So here's to you guys. Of course, we have some amazing sponsors that let us put this thing on for free. We have a new title sponsor in Tahoe Mountain Realty, and I know Jeff Brown is here. He normally sits in the back. Stand up, Jeff. I'm going to embarrass you again. Jeff and his team believe in this mission, and they believe in the power of adventure storytelling and gathering this community into a fun night. So we're super grateful. Thank you, Jeff. We also have some tremendous sponsors, some big sponsors that believe in this event, as well as some local sponsors too. The North Face, everyone's heard of them. They support this event. It's a little biased. Jim's a North Face athlete. DPS Skis, Emerald Bay Wealth Management, Mike Schwartz in the backcountry, which I absolutely love. Mike's normally over there wearing an Alpenglow hat or something. Peak Design, Aaron Summer and Launchpad Q2C is a new sponsor, just loved the Speaker Series and came and said, hey, I want to support you. Technical Equipment Cleaners, Daniel Cates, he'll clean anything you own, literally. He just cleaned a rug for me. It made my wife happy. Evolve Design Works and Mount Lincoln Construction. So let's give them a big round of applause. And we have two awesome local media sponsors in the Tahoe Weekly and 101.5 KE Tahoe Radio. And at every Winter Speaker Series show, all that beer and all that wine, so Sierra Nevada and Joel Gott Winery, they donate that so all the proceeds can go to the nonprofit. So let's give them a big thank you. And like I said earlier, part of the Speaker Series is to raise awareness about some key nonprofit organizations making a difference here in our community. And with that, I'd like to welcome Heather Schwartz from tonight's beneficiary, SOS Outreach.
My name is Heather Schwartz. North Lake Tahoe Program Manager for SOS Outreach. On behalf of our board, staff, and the local kids that we support, I wanted to say thank you to Brendan, Stephanie, and the entire Alpenglow team and the donor party for selecting SOS Outreach as the beneficiary of this wonderful community event. SOS changes lives, builds character, and develops leadership skills in inequitably resourced youth through positive mentoring in the outdoors. Our program supports 230 kids annually, from Kings Beach, Tahoe Vista, Tahoe City, Tahoma, Homewood, Truckee, and Incline Village. For more than 28 years now, SOS has been committed to providing equitable opportunities for youth in our community, regardless of the economic, social, or societal barriers that exist. In partnership with North Star, Diamond Peak, Mount Rose, and Palisades Tahoe, we bring kids to the snow who otherwise would never have had the opportunity to ski or snowboard. In the summer, SOS offers continued opportunities to connect with nature through activities like backpacking and mountain biking. The true magic of SOS programs is not in the access to the outdoors, but into the relationships that are created while there. Our kids develop a sense of belonging to the outdoors, to their groups, and to their mentors. In North Lake Tahoe, our programs are supported by over 30 community adult mentors. They help youth develop a sense of purpose and understanding of the infinite opportunities now available to them. This past year, we all experienced a tremendous amount of change, and SOS was no exception. We quickly and safely pivoted our programs to ensure that the support and connection that has proved essential remained. We were able to combat the social isolation that kids faced and provide a ray of normalcy for kids to be kids and grow in the outdoors. SOS is committed to providing our kids with new opportunities on and off the mountain and opening the Tahoe community and the outdoor industry to them. In partnership with other organizations, community service is at the heart of our programs, and youth engage in projects from educating about mental health to planting trees on Truckee River Day in partnership with the Truckee River Watershed Council and the Sugar Pine Foundation. North Lake Tahoe participants also Designed to sock in partnership with Smartwool. Ultimately, in our Tahoe community, we understand the unmatched value that outdoor access brings to our lives. We know that for so many of us, experiencing nature in and around the lake has brought so many wonderful experiences, developed our sense of community, and given us undeniable joy. This incredible access is a gift to be cherished and shared. Our programs at SOS continue to ensure that all youth have the opportunities to experience the freedom of the outdoors, unearth their full potential, and thrive. With your support, we remain 100% committed to our communities and continue to open doors for our North Lake Tahoe youth. You can double your impact. Now through December 31st, your gift will be matched up to $50,000 by our founding partners, Vail Resorts. Thank you for listening. Enjoy the evening. Thank you to Elena Hight for being our speaker tonight. Happy holidays, and we'll see you in the new year.
That's a special organization, right, guys? This is how weird the world is. Someone I've worked with for, 5 years just told me before the show, man, this organization's so rad. My son went through their program, and it was super transformative. So kudos to SOS, doing great work. But tonight is about Elena. Elena is a 2-time Olympian, a gold medal X Games athlete, a Burton U.S. Open champion, a 7-time X Game gold medalist. She's been featured in the Body issue of ESPN, the magazine, which is normally reserved for mainstream athletes like basketball and football players. And she's pioneered tricks that, admittedly, I don't even understand what they are. But for this crowd, what makes Elena and her story so compelling is her ability to evolve as an athlete. She's gone from a super pipe crusher to a soul rider chasing her dreams in the big mountains. In the seminal snowboarding film Ode to Muir, in which Elena stars with snowboarding icon Jeremy Jones, the directors use a very famous John Muir quote that reads, "Over-civilized people are beginning to find out that going to the mountains is going home, that wilderness is a necessity, and that mountains are fountains of life." And for everyone tuning in tonight, this is the connective tissue that bonds all of us. Whether you're a bird-watching snowshoer or Jim Morrison skiing the raddest thing on the planet, we have that in common. And I'd go so far as to say that we are the best versions of ourselves, I know I am, when we are in the mountains chasing our dreams. And I know Elena will tell you tonight that she feels the same way, so let's give her a big, warm Tahoe welcome.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me? Thank you for having me. I should just let Brendan do my presentation because that was a really great intro. Yeah, I'm really happy to be here. Really excited to be giving a little bit to SOS Outreach. I think that they're such a great organization and hope that we can raise a lot of money for them tonight. A little bit about me, for those of you who do not know who I am. My name is Elena Hight. I am a professional snowboarder. I competed in halfpipe professionally for 16 years. And 3 years ago, I retired from competitive snowboarding to pursue big mountain snowboarding, and have been on that road ever since. The irony of this presentation is that it's called Breaking Through Comfort Zones, and this is the first time I've ever done anything like this, so I'm very much out of my comfort zone. So give me a little bit of slack if I have some hiccups, and thank you for being along this ride for me and helping me listen to my own advice and break through some comfort zones. So today, my presentation really is about how we humans like to be comfortable. And we tend to do that whether or not it's holding us back. It's something that I've experienced, and I would imagine that all of you in this room and who are watching have experienced. We all face crossroads in life, and ultimately, we have a choice of whether to go left or right. I'm going to start with this quote. "A ship is always safe at shore, but that is not what it is built for," from Albert Einstein. Someone who obviously is much smarter than I am. But I think that, we all have the choice to ultimately stay safe at shore in the place that we're comfortable along the way, or kind of sail into the unknown. And so to begin my story, I'm going to start at the beginning. This is me. I was born in Kauai, Hawaii, and grew up in the outdoors, a little bit different of a climate than here, but really was shaped by the outdoors from a very young kid, and spent all my time outside. This was my first board sport. I learned pretty quickly that left foot is not the correct way to go down a hill, but we'll get to that. This is my mom, Myra, who has been a huge influence in my life and my career. This is my dad, Mike, who ultimately was the catalyst for my snowboarding career and my not as lucrative surfing career. I learned to surf in Honolulu Bay. When I was 6 years old, we moved to the mountains, and as an avid surfer, the first thing my dad did was teach us all how to snowboard, my siblings and my mom. And this photo, I think, was taken at Kirkwood, which was my dad's favorite resort to ride, and quickly became my favorite resort to ride. I still love to go over there, and our favorite thing was to go through the gullies, because I think it reminded my dad of riding waves. I started competing very soon after I started snowboarding at 7 years old, and did USASAs, which I'm sure you all are familiar with. I raced gates. I rode halfpipe. I had great style as a kid. And to be honest, I was probably one of the most competitive children you've ever met. But I think I hated to lose more than I liked winning. So I just worked really hard to make sure that I didn't lose. And to not bore you with too much of my childhood history, I gained a lot of recognition at a young age, and this was probably my breakout moment when I started competing professionally right after this.
Youth Brigade March continues here in Colorado. Look at that, 13-year.
Oh. And we're gone. Sorry, guys. Pause. And we're back. PowerPoint presentations is not my strong suit, so bear with me here.
Youth Brigade March continues here in Colorado. Look at that, 13 years old.
I did my first pro event when I was 13. That first Grand Prix I ever did, I was one of the first girls to win inside 900.
How long have you been working on that trick?
I learned it yesterday.
I don't think I ever looked back.
So that pretty much sums up my attitude towards life at that point. I was just on a wild ride, and I was 13 at the first event that I ever competed in. I placed third in that Grand Prix. I went to the X Games, got invited to be on the US snowboard team, and basically got whisked off into competitive snowboarding quickly after that. Great things are done by a series of small things brought together. I truly believe in this quote. It's really easy for me to stand up here and highlight all of the great things that I've done or the hard things I've done, but there were so many small steps in between, and I really think that that is really what makes a successful career and a successful life, and especially in the mountains, I think that it's something that we all value very, very much. Pretty quickly after that last video I showed you, a couple years passed, and I ended up here, which is at the Olympics in 2006, next to a lot of my heroes. You'll see in this picture Shaun White, Danny Cass, Andy Finch, Hannah Teeter, Kelly Clark. You probably can't recognize them because we all look like children. But this was really a benchmark in my career because it was the first time that I was able to legitimize my dreams. And I think that hopefully everyone in this room and everyone listening has had a dream or a passion or a goal at some point in life that they had to convince everyone around them that it was a good idea. And I convinced so many people that I wanted to be an Olympian and that it was a really good idea and that I could definitely do it. And I remember going home at night and being like, I think I can do it. Maybe this is possible. It is a good idea, right? It is possible, maybe not. And then I ended up here. And it was the first moment when I realized that this thing I had been working towards was actually happening, that I was becoming a professional snowboarder. And I think it's relatable for anyone, really, if it's you are trying to land your first job or asking for your first raise or getting a degree in college. It's really that kind of milestone that you stand on. And hopefully it doesn't die this time. Here's my run. So I was 16 at the first Olympics that I went to, and it was a whirlwind, and there were shirtless men with USA on them, which just increased my anxiety about the event that much more, but we'll get to that. So the Olympics was really my first milestone, and my competitive career kind of took off after that. Over the next decade, I landed on the top of a lot of podiums, spent really all of my time traveling with these two ladies in general, Gretchen Bleiler and Hannah Teeter. I had a really, really tight-knit community, traveling the world and competing in events. And I think that that's something that we can relate to in any mountain town, is that the people that you're with really kind of make the experience. I found a lot of comfort in this lifestyle of, living in a packed bag, going to these events, pushing myself, partying at the end of it, and doing it all over again. And it sounds really, really exciting and fun, and it really was for a long time, but somehow I got bored and felt like it was monotonous, just going from place to place, riding half pipe after half pipe, and I found myself in a bit of a rut. And Nelson Mandela is one of my favorite people to follow and has a lot of really good advice. It always seems impossible until it's done, and that is so much the truth. During this time when I was trying to find new inspiration for riding halfpipe, I was having a conversation with a few people, and it was in 2012, and the latest breakthrough in halfpipe snowboarding were double corks. And I had a couple people tell me, I don't think the girls will do the double corks. I think it's too gnarly. And that immediately was the catalyst for me to want to prove them wrong. And so I did. I worked for about 18 months on this double cork. This was the first day I landed it. It's a double alley-oop backside rodeo. I wish I could have named it something else. But, the catalyst for me for learning this trick really was to prove someone else wrong. But the result was something much bigger. I think I learned for the first time in my life what it felt like to step outside of my comfort zones and push myself to my limit. And I was extremely uncomfortable during this entire process. I had never gone upside down twice, and there's a lot that can go wrong here. And so I think this was like really a turning point in my career, because because of the success that followed, but really because I learned the value of stepping outside of what I was comfortable with and pushing my limits.
In Louis Vito, and they pulled up their iPhone and they go, hey, check this out. Just randomly throws a double backside rodeo. Oh, no big deal. Women's half pipe double backside rodeo. Okay, it's on. History's gonna be made. Let me show you this.
For the first time ever, she was able to land the double alley-oop rodeo. No rider in history actually has ever landed it in a competition. Speaking with Alyssa Ronick, our third member of our team, she said she wants to throw it out in her run. She's like, I want 3 attempts at it. So let's see if she delivers on her promise.
Well, if there's anywhere for history to be made, it's here at the X Games. So it does not surprise me she's going to throw it down. It seems to happen every year, so I'm ready for it. You guys ready for it? Here we go. 1, 2, oh!
And we're gone again. So I was the first female to ever land a double cork in a half pipe, and the first person, male or female, to land that double cork in a competition. At the time, Shaun White was also learning that double cork, and the media made a big frenzy about how it was Shaun's trick. And actually, after that run, the announcer asked me, so what does it feel like to land Shaun's trick?
Youth brigade.
And I answered, I'm pretty sure it's not Shaun's trick if he hasn't landed it yet.
In Louis Vito.
So that was like something that I really stood on for a long time and made me super proud. Definitely the scariest thing I've ever tried in a half pipe. And I came off of that season really on top of the world. I had all of the backing to do whatever I wanted and all of the media attention really on me. And what came after that was actually filled with a lot of challenges and failures. As any career goes, it's up and down. And most relevant to this story was that I failed to qualify for the Olympics the following season, mostly because I was so hell-bent on doing that trick that I didn't land it. And I think that I share this because that failure really helped give me the space to look at my snowboarding and find inspiration beyond the jersey. I had been so hell-bent on snowboarding until that point, just inside of a half pipe and really just for a result, that failure gave me a chance to ride the resort, to come to Squaw, ride half pipe, and also look beyond the half pipe and ride the mountain. And I really like this quote. In 20 years, you'll be more disappointed by what you didn't do than by what you did. Mark Twain. I had been taught to that point that when you fail, you double down, you work harder, and you stay more focused. And so that was kind of my outlook. And yet I was feeling very uninspired by the half pipe. And I got a call to go to Alaska. And by the Full Moon crew, which is a bunch of really powerful females in the backcountry space. And I think that I almost said no because I was too afraid of failing. I had never ridden anything like Alaska. I had never been in big mountains or ridden spines, and I didn't know if I could do it. And I was afraid of failing again, especially in front of people that I looked up to so much. But something within me really told me that I had learned how to be uncomfortable through my experience of learning new tricks, through going through learning the double cork, and that I could go up there and be uncomfortable and still succeed, whether I tomahawk down the whole mountain or not, which we hope doesn't happen. So I said yes, despite my mind telling me not to. And if you've ever been to Alaska, you get up there and you usually wait a long time, which gave me a long time to consider that I was making the wrong decision. I sat up there with some of my idols, and that made me even more unsure. This is Geeky Ruff. We spent a lot of time at the helipad with him, and there was a lot of knowledge being passed around, I think, without them even realizing it. Me as a youngster coming into a place I had never been and a vibe of snowboarding I had never really experienced. It's so different than the competitive world. And they shared a lot of wisdom with me. Gigi's, I think, I will hold on to forever. He left it there for everyone to read. It's very true, though. I think also with life, if you try to force it too much, it usually turns out like shit. So I learned a lot while I was in Alaska. I rode lots of big mountains, stood on top of places that I was extremely uncomfortable, but was able to kind of pull from my half-pipe mind space. This is the first spine I ever dropped into. and I'm pretty sure I shook the whole way down. I didn't tomahawk the whole way down, though, so I was pretty happy about that. And, you know, I went into AK kind of as a half-pipe rider and as someone who was super, super tunnel visioned on this Olympic dream and competitive dreams, and felt like anything that I did outside of that was not necessarily a waste of time, but just distracting. And so I went up there feeling like maybe this was a distraction and I was just, you know, stepping away from what I was meant to be doing. But I soon realized that this was the biggest inspiration that I could have ever gotten, not only for snowboarding in general, but also for my competitive career. And yeah, I learned a lot in Alaska, was able to ride spines and not tomahawk down them. I'll share a little bit. Well, we died again, but for anyone who's ever been to Alaska, that is really bad form. You don't just jump out of the helicopter like that. Because I could have slid down the whole 5,000-foot face. Who knows? Sorry, guys, that we keep crashing here. Do we have any tech people in town? Where are we? Okay. Let's see if this... There we go. We're back.
Another roadblock in our way. But if we go together. Always a time here if we stay. Oh, we said our dreams will carry us, and if they don't fly, we will run. Now we push right past to find out, oh, how to win what they all lost. We know now we want more.
Needless to say, I definitely left Alaska hooked on big mountains, and was pretty confident that I was going to do everything I could to make it back there, but didn't really know how. I also found a new spark for snowboarding. I think that I had been so focused on the outcome of contests up until that point that I had forgotten that I loved the sport. And this reminded me of that, and I went into the next season really with a lot less pressure on my shoulders, and of just wanting to enjoy the ride, and figure out how I was going to get back to Alaska. So I spent the next year competing, and it was one of my best contest seasons to date. I got my face plastered on big cutouts, which of course means you've made it in life. I won the X Games. Which really looks like the cutout, right? I was able to compete in front of a lot of friends and family, which really meant a lot to me. I continued on to podium and a lot of events, and really felt more connected than I had ever felt before. And I think that reflecting on that, a lot of it came from quiet time in the mountains, and I hadn't had that really in over a decade, so it went a long way. I went into the next season with a ton of momentum again, really excited about competing, and again, it was Olympic year. I was confident and definitely a favorite to not only go to the Olympics for the US team, but also win a medal. And I failed. I fell on my face, and I think that you learn a lot more from failures than you do successes. And I think this failure, for me, really taught me a lot. And I think the biggest thing was that I was competing in a lot of ways out of fear of not accomplishing my goal of winning an Olympic medal, rather than trying to chase success. I was trying to run away from failure. And I think that that's something that we all, or maybe not, but a lot of people can relate to. Oftentimes we run away from the chance of failure more than towards success. And so it was a hard lesson to learn, but I did learn it. And I have a couple excerpts.
I didn't make finals, and then I fell again, and it was just like it kind of snowballed. The thought never even crossed my mind that I wouldn't make it to the Olympics. I was completely heartbroken. Why was I still doing this?
So I came off that season pretty heartbroken, or not that season, but that Olympic trials, realizing that kind of this goal that I had had for 12 plus years, 14 years was kind of gone, and it was not something I was quite ready to let go of, but also didn't necessarily feel inspired by. I think I again was more running away from failure than anything else. In every walk with nature, one receives far more than he seeks. John Muir. So a few months after that Olympic trials, I got a call from Jeremy Jones, and he asked me if I wanted to go on a little trip with him, which is always a good start from Jeremy, if you know him. And through a mutual sponsor, he brought this opportunity to me. He was going on a trip through the Sierras, trekking from west to east through the eastern Sierras, and asked if I wanted to join. And I was terrified and said yes, because at that point I was just a little lost in life and figured that walking for 10 days was a good way to work out my problems. And so we set off on this trek for 8 nights and 9 days through the Sierras. Up until this point, I think I had like 10 days on my splitboard. I'd never put on crampons. I'd never winter camped. And I did all of it. Thankful to Tiff Jones, who didn't let me leave with just the things that Jeremy told me to bring. Because I stayed warm and didn't die. We climbed lots of mountains, and I really immersed again into nature, which is something that I had been pretty separate from over the past year. I ended up on a bunch of peaks that I had no idea how I had gotten there. Carried a super heavy pack for too many miles. We camped on mountaintops and watched sunrises. And if you haven't seen the documentary Ode to Muir, I would definitely suggest watching it. It's a special one, not just for my personal experience in the mountains, but because of what it relays. And I made it to the end. If you guys have ever been camping for more than 5 days, you know what my hair felt like at that point. Almost as good as it looks. And I really came out of that trip like, wow, I just experienced something I have never experienced before, and I don't know what that means, but I really liked it. And I really love this quote: "If you're brave enough to say goodbye, life will reward you with another hello." It's really hard to let go of dreams and passions, especially when you've put a lot of time into them and a lot of effort, and you didn't accomplish what you wanted to accomplish. I think it's a personal battle that I think at some point we all go through in life. And for me, I came home from this trip and I felt the same pull that I had felt in the very beginning of my halfpipe career. This pull that just made me want to learn everything I could learn about the mountains, and made me want to devote all my time to being able to learn this entirely new sport, essentially, that I knew nothing about. And I was terrified to let go of the thing that I knew so well, even though deep down I felt very uninspired by it and knew that it was kind of time to let go. Ultimately, I decided to walk away from halfpipe snowboarding and pursue big mountain riding. I called all of my sponsors and said, I don't think I want to do this anymore. Do you want to support me, riding backcountry? And they all said, do you have anything to show for it? And I was like, no, I don't. Nope, I really like it though. And I'm gonna try really hard to make sure that I can do this. And thankfully, a lot of them stuck with me and supported my dream, but that's always a risk that you have to take, and I did lose some support along the way, but what I gained was so much more. I finally started to explore my own backyard in a way that I had never done before. I had never been into the backcountry in Lake Tahoe, and I lived here my whole life. And I started struggling my way up mountains, trying to chase people who were much better than me, learning very quickly that I was not fast. I tomahawked my way down a lot of mountains. And had some small successes along the way. And really, I think during this transition, the biggest thing I learned was that I found joy in learning just as much as I did succeeding. I can laugh when I fall and, go through the harsh things and still feel like it's a success. And I had lost that in halfpipe competing. I had lost that in putting a jersey on. It did not feel like a success unless I actually won or ended up on the podium. So that's how I knew that this was kind of the right path for me. The chance that I took on myself when I made that choice was to leave what I knew behind. It was to pursue a passion without a guarantee of success. even though there really is no guarantee of success in life. When you're comfortable, it feels like there is. And that choice really has brought me to a lot of uncomfortable places, but it also has brought me to some of the most amazing places I've ever been. And it has given me the chance to truly grow and thrive and find a passion within myself that I had lost a little bit. I still scare myself just as much, if not more. And I've found a community in the mountains even stronger than I had in the competition world, which was a big fear of mine. Leaving, my tribe to pursue something new meant that I had to find a new tribe. And one of the reasons why I wanted to speak tonight is because I feel like I've found so much community in this world, and I'm really, really honored to be a part of it. So I'm almost done, but I love this quote: "Success is not final, failure is not fatal. It is the courage to continue that counts." And if there's anyone that knows that, it's definitely me. I have failed more than I have succeeded, and it makes the successes that much sweeter. And if there's anything that I have learned and that I hope to share with you guys tonight, it's that the magic really happens when you're ready to choose that magic over the comfort of knowing. The unknown is scary, but what we are capable of choosing that lights our passion on fire, that pushes us to change and grow, and ultimately we find new comfort zones and continue to grow. And there's no substitute for that. So thank you guys for listening.
It's been like this love affair. I don't go back every year. I'm not known as like that guy who knows Alaska by heart, but for the last 4 decades, I've always found my way back. In 1981, 2 years after the West Buttress, I returned to Denali with my Canadian friend Jeff Creighton, and we climbed the Cassine Ridge. And it was on that trip, very early in my alpine climbing, that I really learned about climbing, hard, technical, exposed climbing at high elevations. And then in 1989, returned to Alaska to climb Moose's Tooth with my good friend Jim Quirk. And it was on Moose's Tooth really where my eyes really opened to the potential of climbing in Alaska, that it didn't have to be the highest mountain to be the most technically demanding. The wild mile-long summit ridge to the true summit of Moose's Tooth, or the west face, we completed a new route on the west face of Mount Huntington. And this was also where I began to realize that in Alaska, when it's light 24 hours a day, don't sleep, man. We had actually carried 3 days worth of food and bivy gear and a stove, yet we did the new route up the west face in 1 day in a continuous push. And so it really kind of opened my eyes of going light and fast. In 1990, returned to the Great North, but into Canada, into the Yukon. I had always kind of been drawn to Mount Logan and the Hummingbird Ridge. And my buddy Jeff and I did a direct variation start to the Hummingbird Ridge. And this was 14,000 vertical feet of climbing. And it's a whole long story, but we ended up traversing the mountain 2 days after all our food and fuel had run out. We ran into this food cache that had been left on a pass in 1953 and found just enough fuel and food in it to boost our morale enough to get us back to base camp. A wild adventure in the Great North. In 1993, I somehow lured my girlfriend, Holly Sampson, into joining me on a Great North adventure, and we climbed the beautiful, elegant West Ridge on Mount Hunter. And this was her first mountaineering experience ever. And it would have been enough to just head back to Talkeetna after this climb and call it good, but we had one more week before our flight, and the weather forecast was perfect. And so we flew into the Hayes Range on a one-way flight and climbed the direct west face of Mount Deborah. It's an amazing 3,000-foot ice wall with a very amazing technical ascent and an epic descent, another long story. But the real clincher with this show tonight is that we also hiked out, and that was a brutal hike out, bushwhacking out to the Denali Highway, 25 miles of bushwhacking. And guarantee you, sitting there, I'm saying I will never hike out of the Alaskan outback again. And we know how that went. In 1995, kind of mixed things up and went into the Kachatna Spires with my buddy Jeff Creighton. And this was when I was really beginning to kind of see the potential of the Great North as more than just big ice and snow climbs, but a lot of the big rock routes that were out there, all throughout the area above and around the Arctic Circle. And we did some big wall climbing there. In 2000, I was drawn back to kind of the big mountaineering with my friend Bean Bowers. And I'm pointing this out because a lot of people ask me, like, is it better to be good or lucky on these big alpine climbs? And my answer is always, it's better to be lucky, but once you get lucky, you'd better be good. And we had gone in to climb, at that time, the unclimbed North Spur of St. Elias, and we got right to this point here. You're going to have to memorize this spot. And I had this feeling, and it was weird because you're with your climbing partner, you don't want to seem weak or whatever. I'm like, I'm not feeling it. And we were climbing strong, and the conditions were perfect. I'm like, Bean, I don't know. This is not like me, but I'm not feeling good. Let's get out of here. And we descended and came back to camp. This is a photograph the next day. That's where we were right there. The entire face ripped, and we later heard that there was an earthquake in the Anchorage area, and huge avalanches were triggered all throughout the region, and that entire face was gone. It was just one of those kind of give you the tingle sort of experiences. So we turned our attention to the west face, the Holmby route, and learned that another thing about the Great North is it does not give up its prizes easy. Some of the coldest temperatures I have ever been in. It was brutally, brutally cold. And then that amazing feeling once you're done and you've accomplished what you set out to do and you're packed into that little plane, flying out of Alaska, the place you'd wanted to get to so bad, you can be equally happy to get away from it. In 2002, again, as I mentioned, my interest in the Great North was turning more and more towards big rock routes. Came to the Cirque of the Unclimbables with my friend Paul Adams to climb the Lotus Flower Tower, one of the legendary big granite faces, and phenomenal climbing in a spectacular setting. And it was also, even though he and I did hike out some pretty brutal loads for a ways, we realized there are other ways of getting out of these mountain ranges with a really awesome helicopter ride out at the end. In 2005, drawn back again to the big mountain feel, Mount Forker, for me, it was kind of the last big mountain in the range that really interested me, that I wanted to climb. Went in there with Aaron Zanto to climb the Infinite Spur. You can see the name of our team, Infinite Fun. I thought that was very appropriate. And it turned out when we got to the base of the Infinite Spur, it was completely out of condition. The ice had melted out of some of the key areas. There was rock fall. And with a lot of climbers, at that point, you might have said, well, let's turn around and go back to base camp and sort things out. With Zanto, he and I just on the spot said, you know what? Let's just keep going around that mountain. I think there's another ridge back there called the Talkeetna Spur. We knew nothing about it, and we did a very early repeat of this route, topping out on the summit together. This is a great tip, and another reason to have a mustache. There's about a liter of water there that you can tap into when you need to hydrate. I might have to take Will up on the mustache challenge. And my love affair with the Great North wasn't just confined to kind of the northwest part of North America. In 2010, traveled to Greenland with Sarah Garlick, Jim Surratt, and Danica Gilbert. And it was just this remarkable fairyland of huge granite spires that can be amazingly beautiful and fun climbing, and at the same time, in a flip of the weather, some of the harshest weather on Earth with the rain and the wind. But amazing potential for you alpinists out there that are looking to go just that one layer beyond. There is so much climbing potential in Greenland. And Danica and I ended up establishing several new routes in the area, and eventually climbed some fun climbs in the Tazermute area with Jim and Sarah as well. Just a great place to go. And again, this is actually not fair because I'm mostly showing pictures of sunshine. It wasn't like that all the time. And kind of lastly, one of the places in the Great North that had always been magical and mystical to me was Baffin Island. From the very earliest days of my climbing, reading stories about Charlie Porter going in and soloing these huge routes. And so in 2013, Reuben Shelton and I got dropped off by a fishing boat and backpacked 3 days up the Weasel Valley, right along the Arctic Circle, and climbed one of the most spectacular granite spires that I've ever seen, Mount Asgard. Gorgeous, gorgeous climbing. Over 20 pitches of technical steep climbing. That's the summit spire off in the distance there. And Reuben and I had kind of honed our experience over the years doing a lot of long rock climbs together, and this really put it to the test. And after Asgard, he and I established a beautiful route on Mount Loki, and this is the type of day that will definitely keep a love affair with the Great North going. Absolutely sunny, windless day on the top of Mount Loki, surrounded by all the peaks on Baffin Island. So there's no doubt I love to climb because of the technical challenge and the motion and all the things that are wrapped around the actual climbing. But over the years, really the things that have become more important are all these amazing places that my passion for climbing and being in the outdoors has led me to the magic mountains of Nepal, like on the Dablam here, to the summits, to remote places in Pakistan on Nameless Tower, to some of the more challenging climbs I've ever done on many return trips to Patagonia. And it's even more important are these travels and the passion for seeing the different parts of the world has brought me to all these different people and cultures throughout the world, and seeing how happy and how much we have in common with everyone around the world, and that they're psyched when you show up wherever it is, whether you're in Asia or Africa, South America. There's such a common bond with the passion of accomplishment and happiness and just being stoked to be out there. And if you can get beyond the doomsday news and overdoses of social media, you're out there and you realize, man, kids everywhere are the same. They're laughing, they're curious. It's a real big part of why I climb. But one of the most important things that I've gotten out of a life as a climber and being in the outdoors is the friendships. Yeah, this on the summit of, it's my buddy Kevin there in the middle. What happened to your hair? This is after climbing the shield on El Cap in, what was that, 1987? That sounds about right. As long as both of us forget, it's okay. Then we can make it up. It was a long time ago. And just the great friendships that I've had that I've shared in the backcountry of the High Sierra, here with Brandon Thaw. He and I have put up so many new routes in the Sierra backcountry. And friendships and partnerships that, to be honest, have really pushed and challenged me, that have made me rally up, see things different, believe that I could do very difficult routes, partnering up with good friends. And being in some of the wildest, most remote places. And more than just sharing the friendship on the climbs, to me it's about just being out there, whatever you're doing, whether you're climbing, you're skiing, being with people that you're psyched to be with. This is my friend Rochelle right there, falling in love with backcountry skiing in Tahoe, and she is loving it. And just being out with great friends here locally, or traveling around the world, exploring new areas, skiing hut to hut, staying psyched. To me, the friendships that you get by following the passions that we do are really kind of the key thing. And it was my kind of like my love of climbing and outdoors that brought me to Tahoe in the first place, and has connected me with everyone here in the room and with friends that are now all around the world, sharing this common bond. And it's like, as I mentioned, I love to climb, but more importantly, it's the adventures and the good friends that I share them with. And there's kind of this little bit of a quote that really resonates with me and is always very appropriate when I put slideshows together. And it goes, your friends don't just know the stories of your life and your adventures, they help create them. And it's so true. So anyway, thanks so much for showing up here tonight. Awesome. Woo! Yeah. Where's Brendan? Anyway, thank you guys so much. Be safe, have fun. Tonight we are pushing the game forward. This means a lot to me. I know it means a lot to everybody here that we are showing up in person. So it's okay that we showed up with masks. I'm seeing a lot of smiling eyes. I get to take mine off, so I get to talk. All right. Good night.